eUnited almost find the victory, but it only took one team fight for Team Allegiance to find game number 1. Ready to go for picks and bans for game number 2. ALG now in the first pick position. I doubt we're going to see eUnited wait as long to pick their jungler this time.
I would anticipate that eUnited probably want to get Virizial, one of his top priority junglers in the first 3 selection, because otherwise I think that it places them in just too awkward of a position, because while I don't think he played the Arachne poorly, I just think that there wasn't really any there was no opportunity for him to try and utilize it at all.
There's a reason why Arachne doesn't get played very often in the SPL. We'll put it that way. I mean, she does great in a lot of areas, but in a competitive setting when you've got 5 people who understand how to play around what you want to do and where your weaknesses are, it can be pretty difficult to be successful. We saw that there for eUnited's jungler. Allegiance, they get the Fafnir to start it off. They pick Fafnir over that Ganesh. And PolarBearMike had a big impact in that game, Taco. I think, as you mentioned, that Phoenix Siege on the left, that defense from eUnited was largely credited to Khaos and PolarBearMike at that instance, but still wasn't enough for eUnited to find the victory.
And I also just love the selection choice by ALG to pick up the Fafnir for NeiruMah. That is a Guardian that we've seen perform quite well on already, and I think that it's a very potent pick for him. And I also really like the counter selections by eUnited. Bellona and Soul immediately. I love both of those gods.
It's exactly what ALG picked in their second pick position in game 1. Ended up working out pretty well for both CycloneSpin and Metyankey. Allegiance, they're going to go right to a jungler, Susano, this time around. Again, keeping it out of Virizial's hands, one of his best gods, but also a potent one for weekend. And Metyankey doesn't have the soul, so he's going to go right to the Isis. Objective control here already between the Fafnir and Isis is going to be very difficult to contend with.
A little bit more risky, though, for Metyankey on the Isis in comparison to a Soul who has that self-peel. And already, eUnited, I think that this could potentially be a Bellona jungle, or even the Osiris jungle.
Yeah, I think that Virizial likely has his pick already between those 2 warriors, though PBM is one to be willing to experiment with things like Bellona support.
True.
So could see that coming out of eUnited. Now Allegiance has a choice because they probably don't know exactly what they want to ban away. Could always safely ban away Hunters. You assume that Soul is going to be in the mid lane for Khaos, or they're just going to go right for that Ganesh ban, trying to keep that out of PolarBearMike's hands.
I actually like the decision to ban away the Ganesh, because I feel as though you can kind of expect it to not be a Guardian selection or the support selection between the Bellona and the Osiris, just because you want a little bit more of hard CC on the side of eUnited. But just in case, just in case it is, you can't really go wrong with banning away Geb and Ganesh.
No, I've got no problems with those bans at all. eUnited going to get some hard CC anyways with the Cupid pick there for PandaCat, and Ocean's going to go for the Medusa, which can get shut down by Cupid in lane. Vamana as well can have trouble up against Cupid if he doesn't have his ultimate, so Allegiance does pick some characters that still have that mobility. Cupid, of course, does great against Susano because Susano doesn't have any CC immunity in his kit and also has multiple dashes.
And Khepri. I do love the selection by eUnited, because not only are they already a tanky composition, but the Khepri just provides that survivability factor for the Soul that you really want. You just want to protect your Soul. That's exactly what ALG did in game number 1. They protected Metyankey so heavily, and the second that somebody tried to aggress, I mean predominantly Benji, he just got turned on immediately.
Ready to go, game number 2. eUnited trying to even it up against Team Allegiance, whereas ALG, they find this victory here. They're in a great spot to get to DreamHack Valencia. It is going to be Virizial on that Bellona in the jungle. So Benji, again, gets the rerun on the Osiris. It's going to be Virizial playing Bellona in the jungle.
And Benji on Osiris has got to be one of the most annoying things in the world. I mean, even though his team wasn't able to secure the victory in game number 1, he still felt like such an impact throughout that game. And it's just so annoying trying to deal with this god.
So now you've got the 2 warriors that everyone's worried about with Deathtoll on the same roster, both Bellona and Osiris, but CycloneSpin going for a pretty defensive warrior here in this lane. Virizial starting in the mid lane is even enough to force the Isis to give up the early clear. Usually not something that you see. Isis is about as good as it gets in terms of early wave clear. Immediately eUnited, they go to the enemy speed buff, and it looks like Weekend and Metyankey want to do the same thing on their side.
I actually like the decision by Weekend and Metyankey to not really hesitate and wait to see if they can steal the speed. You know that you can secure this speed buff at least and take a safe route. While you might miss a few creeps, they might miss the melee creeps from the wave, but if they go for the blue buff or even the early gank onto Benji, I don't think that Benji was expecting this at all.
Benji's in some trouble immediately, and Weekend and Metyankey both showing up, but look at where the jungle and mid are coming from eUnited. Weekend does get the first blood onto Benji, but Virizial and Khaos both lurking, and especially with CycloneSpin being so low, this could be a return kill opportunity. Virizial the first one in. Stellar Burst onto CycloneSpin. Metyankey's Aegis though is good, and now ALG is turning it around. Khaos gets into the Disapparate. Benji's teleported in. Metyankey may be pushing up a little bit too far here. Khaos gonna fall to the hand of Cyclone. He gets a kill for his troubles, and then clears the path away. ALG turn it around once more on eUnited, finding 2 early kills.
That was such a sick counter engage by ALG, and I think where that really went wrong for eUnited is Virizial tried to bludgeon Metyankey, who had the Aegis popped, instead of trying to get that bludgeon off onto Cyclone, who I think it might have killed.
It may have, but with Cyclone dashing away and being so quick, I don't know if it would have even connected though, Taco. That bludgeon pretty short range on that camera down.
Cooldown though. Initially, his dash was on cooldown when they first tried to initiate that setup, and I mean, it cost Weekend a Sunder, and that's about it, but if it means a first blood kill for a Susano, I'll take it every time.
Ocean's stunned, and NeiruMah gonna step in, take some shots there with the body blocks. Looks like eUnited is getting the better end of this duo lane at least, and that's basically what you expect whenever you've got a Khepri on your side, even with a low push hunter such as Cupid.
Cupid can be a big bit of a nuisance. Plus, the Khepri isn't any damage to really scoff at. He's got a fair amount of damage in his kit as well for the early game stage.
Really controlling that lane pretty well. PandaCat the first to hit 5 on the left side of the map. Now Weekend a little bit of trouble on this right-hand side, but the blue buff still goes Allegiance's way. Virizial not going to get punished heavily for it, despite being low on mana without his ultimate, just because of how low Weekend is in both HP and mana.
If Weekend had had a little bit more mana available to him, I think we might have seen a turnaround, but still works out efficiently for that jungler. But I think it's kind of impressive how Virizial hold that thought.
NeiruMah in some trouble on this left, but just not enough damage out of Oceans and PandaCat and PolarBearMike to find the support quite yet. Both the ultimate and the heart bomb committed. Still not quite enough. There's the Sunder on the PBM. Doesn't have the dash. Probably has enough mana to give himself that Scarab's Blessing, but it's not in time. Oceans finds PBM, and NeiruMah finds PandaCat a double kill in the duo lane. PBM just must not have had enough mana there.
That turnaround was absolutely insane by ALG. I thought, if anything, they were just going to disengage, but as soon as their ultimates became available, ALG just knew, NeiruMah especially, he knew I can just frag on Fafnir.
And that's what Fafnir does best. Frags. Now Khaos in trouble. He's going to use the ultimate to give him the CC immunity to get away from the knockup coming out of Weekend. Virizial already used his ultimate. Weekend very, very low. But that time, I mean, it's been turnarounds by Allegiance left and right. That time, a good turnaround by eUnited, turning it around on Weekend.
And that also kind of goes back to what I was initially about to say, in that I thought it was kind of impressive how Virizial and Benji still hit level 5 before Cyclone and Weekend, despite the early trade out going in favor of ALG.
Well, ALG up 4-0 in kills. Now they're looking at the Gold Fury here, and this is what ALG love to do, man. As soon as they draft this Isis, no one from eUnited, even in the area code. Metyankey gonna drop a Circle of Protection. This one is gone. You can mail that to the bank. Allegiance get the first Gold Fury of the game at the 4.5 minute mark.
And already nearly a 2K gold lead in favor of ALG. That's, I mean, it doesn't seem like much, but at only 5 minutes, that's kind of rough.
The good news, though, for Allegiance, or excuse me, for eUnited, is that they aren't too far behind in XP. A pretty big gold differential, yes, but XP was basically even across the board. In fact, Virizial's going to hit 7 before Weekend does in the jungle, so farming up pretty well despite the early kills going ALG's way.
But there is a slight experience lead in favor of the dual lane for ALG, and I think that that's certainly something to keep an eye on, because Fafnir Medusa into Khepri Cupid, it really does come down to the XP lead there, because both these hunters are fairly ability based. So one extra point added into an ability could make all the difference in a trade.
PandaCat not letting Oceans in to the lane for the moment. with NeiruMah coming around. Oceans feels confident enough to step up. PandaCat now realizes that he might be in a little bit of trouble. NeiruMah does find the stun, which means it's going to be 2 guaranteed auto attacks for Oceans and forces that Cupid back a little bit.
He does have the heart sustain, though, which will keep PandaCat able to stay fairly safe in this dual lane. Although he is going to need to keep an eye out for those little side ganks from NeiruMah, because a Fafnir has more than enough capability of diving early on. Grouping
here from eUnited. They're trying to go for the blue buff, and I don't know if Weekend knows. He's trapped in that circle. Does get out of danger in time. Vamana went with the Eagles rally, didn't really find a home. Weekend doesn't have any purification beads, remember. And now he's in trouble, immediately gets abducted and toasted. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Can't dash in there without any beads. Sunder's not going to do you a whole lot of good.
That response by PolarBearMike is kind of one of those moments where Mike was probably saying out loud, "What are you doing, Weekend?"
Yeah, former teammate, so you know there's going to be some healthy banter back and forth between the two. And you're right. I could just hear PVM's voice in my head, screaming at Weekend. Man, those are two guys who are really fun to watch at LAN. Both always bring quite a bit of energy. NeiruMah, a little bit of trouble on that right-hand side, but going to stun Vamana off of him and walk back to safety.
It's interesting that NeiruMah's, and well, I guess both supports really are at the same level as the junglers even. And I mean, that death did cause Weekend to fall a little bit behind as far as farm is concerned, but you can tell that both of these guys are getting plenty of gold distribution in the lanes.
Both of these guys really like to farm up pretty heavily. Jeff Inla's one of those supports that is very unselfish with his farm. You know, you guys take it, I'll fall a little bit behind. It's more important that you guys get your items. PBM and NeiruMah both the other style where it's, you know, if I can get my aura items online faster, then that's better for everybody. So I don't think there's really a right or wrong way to go about it. Just whatever your team kind of dynamic fits better.
Oceans will be taking away that red buff, and I like the choice for him to still take the red buff as opposed to Metyankey, because even though it is an Isis, and Isis has excellent early game, I'd rather see the Medusa having the boxing potential against the Cupid.
Especially with that Ichball completed for Oceans. PandaCat just back to base and has been pretty patient with deciding what he wants to go for that second item. Must be waiting for the gold. Weekend gets stunned and abducted. Metyankey can't save him with the Spirit Ball either. Was out of range, and Khaos is going to get the kill. Vamana. A little taunt action there in the mid lane.
He's probably feeling himself a little bit, especially after the last game. Got to try and boost that confidence again.
Yeah, sometimes those taunts are less for your opponent and more for yourself. Like, yeah, you're a bad dude. You can do this, man. And,
bad hombre.
Yeah, and Vamana, as you mentioned, did not have the greatest of game 1, so boosting himself up here in game number 2. That's 2 kills unresponded by ALG. They were down. eUnited rather was down 4-0, and now 2 kills back to back puts eUnited right back into this game.
And I like the decision-making by eUnited to not fall back as far as aggression is concerned. They are capitalizing on Weekend not having purification beads available. And it's not like a Robin where you've got that immunity in your kit. You can't really afford to dash in if Mike's around. He'll abduct every time.
I mean, yeah, Susano incredibly mobile. The most mobile guy in the game. Maybe Sirket could give him a run for his money, but no CC immunity in that kit. CycloneSpin comes around the back and steals away one of those mid-harpies. 3-man root out of PolarBearMike, but no one there to follow up off of it.
I don't think anybody wanted to follow up off of it, considering how Vamana's already half health and probably around 30% mana. It's kind of a risky engagement to make.
Blue buff once more going to be dropped by Weekend, now falling a little bit farther behind Vamana in terms of farm. NeiruMah going to hold that wave for him in mid along with Metyankey to make sure that both these guys can get as much farm as possible. That Gold Fury is due to respawn right now. Now up back, and immediately ALG start to head to this side of the map. PandaCat and PolarBearMike are here this time around, but I don't know if ALG know that they're here, so they're going to start it up. Weekend on that front side now realizes that eUnited know what's going on. CycloneSpin teleported in though, and Metyankey finds a stun on the PolarBearMike. Vamana interrupts the wing guts. Now Metyanky's in a lot of trouble. That Fields of Love is good. Vamana making life difficult for men on the backside. PolarBearMike had to res himself, and the good peel on the backside means that Metyanky's okay. Benji finds Oceans, but Weekend finds one of his own. PandaCat is the one to fall for eUnited. Now around the enemy red buff, Khaos, 1 HP, just able to get out of danger. courtesy of good peel. Virizial, I don't know if he's going to be able to get out of this one. No, Weaken and NeiruMah combined to bring him down. And what looks like a good engagement right off the bat for eUnited gets turned around once more, and the Legions end up on top.
It was only Virizial trying to solo commit onto Metyankey, and sure, it cost Metyankey his ultimate, but that little burst heal was enough to give NeiruMah time to peel for his mage, and that's exactly what you want to see. That is very strong support play coming out from a rookie to the SPL. And
Legion's basically won, when you think about it, a 3v4 on the front side, because if NeiruMah and Metyankey are being run down by one player, Virizial ends up falling, or doesn't get the kill, I suppose, but doesn't fall until later on. Allegiance was able to take that 3v4 engagement up by the Gold Fury.
It's because they didn't have the Cupid ultimate to cripple Weaken, and so having Susano finally get to utilize that mobility, it just gave him free reign to completely run down the rest of eUnited. No disarm available either because of the Bellona, and so it was really only Benji left to try and defend for really his backline.
PandaCat gonna stop NeiruMah's back and flutter away. It's one of the most annoying things whenever you're this close to backing and then just one little auto attack stops you.
That's the point. Every single time. Sometimes just walking at somebody is enough to scare them into thinking that you're going to try and attack them.
New God passive. When you're backing, you get one hit of super armor. That doesn't stop your back. I'd play that God every game.
That sounds horrible.
What do you mean?
What?
You just don't get your back stopped.
When are you ever going to what if they use 2 auto attacks?
Well, then you get stopped. But as long as you time it right, where you only get hit by 1, then it doesn't matter. Seems good to me. Virizial takes a decent amount of poke from Weaken and wants to chase him down with the help of PolarBearMike, but with Oceans lurking, good decision by eUnited's jungler to give up that chase.
I think that this is where it's going to start becoming a little problematic for United, and where Virizial in particular is going to need to be careful, because it's just so free for Weaken to run in, drop his kit, and then dash away. And Virizial, are you going to use your ultimate to try and return damage? And speaking of ultimate usage, Benji wanted to go in on CycloneSpin, but he's looking for the disengage. Benji not really wanting to slow down, though.
I don't mind the idea there by Benji. Shut down the healing out of CycloneSpin's ultimate, but with the dash still available, Cyclone knew that he was completely safe in that scenario. eUnited thinking about pulling this Gold Fury, but PBM going to get stunned out on the left-hand side. Allegiance knows that they can take that fight if necessary. CycloneSpin, without a lot of fear, is going to push forward into this wave.
Benji has his Sunder, and now Cyclone has no mana.
This is really risky. Benji trying to close the gap. Sunder comes through slow as well. Cyclone does get the ultimate off and is getting that regen. CC immunity, just able to get him out of danger. And that's why CycloneSpin plays, and we do not. Taco.
That is just insane to me still. I kind of can't believe that he got away with that.
He's going back to... No way. There's no way he goes back to lane here, right?
He's living life on the edge.
Cyclone
actually has no fear.
This man is this man is nuts.
Look at him. He's
hiding. Okay, so at least he's not showing Benji that he's going to be sticking around with, no ultimate and half HP. Is going to make sure that Benji's backing beforehand, so he's fine.
But I don't think Benji even had kill potential on him, even if he did go to the lane, because Cyclone, I mean, he still has dash available yet again, and on top of that, Benji didn't have an ult either.
There's a reason why Vamana is considered the, the safe warrior pick, Taco. I mean, incredibly quick movement speed near the top in terms of in the game, behind, what, Mercury and tied with Chiron, I believe. And then he's got that dash as well. Very difficult to lock down the little baby.
Might be seeing him a lot more often, too, once that Death's Toll change comes through.
Always, every solo laner, when you start to play a role, you got to have certain gods in your god pool. And I don't think anyone doesn't play Vamana. You might not like playing Vamana, but you can play Vamana either way. I mean, this is a character that's been around in the solo lane forever, and everyone just seems to have it ready to go.
Speaking of ready to go, Benji looking like he wants round 2 with Cyclone, but all too easy. I mean, he just pretty much one-shots the wave now with a couple of abilities, so...
Vamana, like, waves as he's walking. You see that? His left hand is just like, hey, how you doing? Just imagine seeing that little tiny blue baby waving you down as he then comes and destroys your mage life. I'm having flashbacks already. Vamana destroys mages and it makes me sad. Oracles get split there. Virizial gonna find one with a stun, and Oceans purifies away the other one. Now the Petrify comes through, but Virizial had the Aegis, doesn't take any damage, but doesn't have any mana and is very low. Good Stellar Burst comes out of Chaos, but it's not enough to close the gap. Ooh. But a beautiful res coming out of PBM brings Virizial back. May still fall regardless, but putting a lot of damage into Oceans. Weekend will find him, and Cyclone cleans up PBM on the front side. Cyclone still making life difficult. Benji was forced out by Metyankey alone. Weekend with a double kill, 4 in total for him now. And Allegiance find 3 out of 5. Benji's going to teleport in to try and stop this Gold Fury attempt, but Allegiance again come out on top.
That was a sick res, though, by Mike. Even though it cost 3 members of eUnited their lives, it was an engagement that Virizial I don't think should have ever taken. Ulting into 3 people when you only have enough mana for 2 abilities is kind of suspect, but he didn't really get away with it, or he did for a moment. I do, like I said, it was really well played by PolarBearMike, but unfortunately for eUnited, ALG just had the better counter engage.
Metyankey does 1,000 damage exclusively to Benji because he was never in that engagement. It was just forcing Benji out, and that's a huge play for your mid laner to stop a big Osiris at 16 minutes from coming in and impacting the team fight. You saw just how much work CycloneSpin was able to do, and if Benji's there for eUnited, that fight might go entirely differently.
Yeah, poor Chaos, because Mike didn't have his ultimate available to try and save his mid laner, and really there was just nothing more that he could have done in that situation.
Virizial has Thorns now that he's at level 12 in that front line. Does have the Eagles rally and goes up and down with it. Weekend gonna knock up 2 with that Typhoon. Chaos gets blown up by Metyankey. Circle of Protection coming up huge there for Team Allegiance, and that puts double digits on the board for them. They secure the Portal Demon. Cyclone with the Umbrella Rang finds Virizial. PBM's gonna fall as well. Another 3 kills for Allegiance, and they march on to the middle lane.
Oh man, ALG is really starting to siege all forms of map control, and it looks like they're not planning on slowing down. Benji now the next target, ulting up and down into 4 members of ALG. NeiruMah wanting to give chase, but it could be PandaCat who's actually caught out.
Panda has the ultimate still, and Allegiance didn't knock down this tier 1 quite yet. Everyone realizes, oh yeah, we gotta do this thing, but with an AoE coerce, it's not gonna take them very long to do it, and might be able to just go for the tier 2 here as well. Cyclone gonna force PandaCat back, make sure that ultimate can't come out and stop this siege, as ALG take another 2,000 gold in their pockets.
So much of a swing in so little of time. That was just all beautifully played by ALG.
ALG has just looked so clean this split. I mean, they've looked so good, and I think this is the team that a lot of people wanted to see whenever Weekend and CycloneSpin reunited at the end of Season 3, with Metyankey moving into mid and Oceans having this star power capability. This is what everyone wanted, and Allegiance giving it to their fans now. Fire Giant is started here by eUnited, and they've got the Frenzy as well. Weekend focusing down Virizial, but a good Eagles rally gets him out of the Typhoon knockup. Fire Giant still raging on, but not a lot of damage onto the objective. NeiruMah has just made it very difficult to focus on the objective. Chaos finally does knock him down, but he bought enough time for the rest of ALG to arrive. Weekend on the run, but a beautiful Spirit Ball over the wall knocks down Benji. Gonna force him into a bad spot. Will find the kill onto Oceans though, and he's heading back towards PBM.
And I think he's gonna get away with murder as well. There's really nothing that Oceans could have done there. The Sunder was well played by Benji. He found that little gap is all that he needed to secure the kill. And while the Fire Giant didn't go in favor of eUnited, still securing 2 kills, that's definitely a solid trade-off considering what just happened in the past 3 minutes.
Good call. Look at this teamfight recap and exactly how much eUnited got. More than Team Allegiance, almost 3 times as much XP. Quite a bit of gold as well. Much needed, certainly, at this stage of the game. So as you mentioned, in that sort of scenario, eUnited's never actually looking to do Fire Giant. They're just asking Allegiance to come and stop them so that they can actually fight and try and win it.
They knew that they would be staggering in 1 by 1 to that Fire Giant pit because it was just NeiruMah who stuck around trying to, because NeiruMah knew that at least 1 member needed to stay to ensure that eUnited couldn't free secure Fire Giant. So Allegiance were definitely aware of that. It's just Fafnir couldn't buy that enough time. He bought time, but not enough time for Allegiance to come all at once. And so that 1 by 1 trickle in is really what led to it being in eUnited's favor.
Well, ALG still in control, despite eUnited getting the better end of that last little engagement by the Fire Giant. ALG's up 12-5 in kills, about 8,000 gold in the lead as well, 7,000 in terms of experience, and could expect ALG to continue to group up at this stage or split the map because eUnited is the one that's grouped up. When you got a lead like this, you can really go for either one. Both counter the other. So it's always an interesting dynamic as Allegiance find the tier 1 tower and left. There's only 2 towers left remaining on the map, Taco. That's the side lane tier 2s. And
it's looking like Weekend and Oceans want to try and pressure into this. Verizil is here to defend, but I'm not sure how well he can defend against these 2 members. Thorns are popped, but the Sunder is good from Weekend. So is the ultimate. Both ultimates expended into Verizil, and he won't die.
He's still alive. PandaCat's here now. Drops the Fields of Love, hits the Heart Bomb. Khaos should be able to clean this one up. Surprise, surprise, Oceans. You're done. Khaos with his 3rd kill. Now Supernova juked out beautifully by Weekend. He's going to be able to escape. Khaos may have stepped a little bit too far forward. Benji eats a lot of damage from Metyankey and NeiruMah. CycloneSpin now going in 1v3 in typical CycloneSpin fashion. Does get sundered and the Frenzy popped. So that will force him back in that Colossal Fury, but a good defense there out of eUnited.
I do believe that Cyclone Sunder was just off the mark as well, but with Ocean still being dead on the side of ALG, I can see eUnited pressuring this. They want the Gold Fury. 3 members here. They have ward coverage, but CycloneSpin is teleported back. Weekend is here as well, and he's the one putting a little bit of damage onto Benji. Actually ends up getting the better end, but Benji decides he just wants to zone out this jungler. Gold Fury started here by eUnited, already very low, but NeiruMah resets it with that Draconic transformation. Benji now is going to use the ultimate to jump right on top of Metyankey. Can't get away from the Osiris too easily. CycloneSpin knocks up multiple members as Weekend then takes his turn to get in there and cause a little disruption. But Allegiance is really just doing this to juggle eUnited around and make sure they can't get this objective easily. And that was, it's so well played by ALG. They're not permitting any time. This is what they wanted to happen with that Fire Giant engagement, and now it's actually going to be Allegiance since Oceans has returned, looking to engage onto this Gold Fury, and with the Ice's ultimate being dropped, I don't see how they lose the secure.
They don't lose it. Metyankey's the one to secure it with that Circle of Protection. CycloneSpin had his ultimate again, and is still on the run. 4-man knock-up coming out of Weekend. Verizil now on the run. Oceans is going to fall between the ultimates out of Khaos and PandaCat, but Allegiance get their 3rd Gold Fury of the game, only losing 1 member for it.
Pretty fortunate for eUnited, however, that they didn't lose any return members, because I thought for sure with that knockup from Weekend that Allegiance was going to be able to pursue. Excellent placement of the ultimate by PandaCat.
Really nice job. He's been using that Fields of Love pretty effectively in this one. Only has 1 kill to show for it, but has made it difficult for Weekend, Oceans, NeiruMah, I mean, you name it, to get around the team fights too easily with that giant Fields of Love.
And it's actually kind of funny to say because you don't typically expect it to be the ADC, but it almost feels like Oceans has been a bit of a sacrificial lamb this game for Allegiance, kind of getting targeted out by that Fields of Love.
eUnited want this Fire Giant again. Looking for it, not the Portal Demon. CycloneSpin is here. There's the Frenzy Pop coming out of eUnited, and immediately NeiruMah into the backline, disrupting it. Fire Giant already pretty low, though, here. Taco doesn't get reset for the time being. Verizil gets stunned into the lava pool, and the Fire Giant is taking him down. Speaking of taking down, Benji's going to take down NeiruMah on the front side as Cyclone finds one of his own. Verizil, the one to fall on the side of eUnited. Oceans shows up and immediately starts tearing through Benji. That Judgment Tether doing a decent amount of work to get him out of danger, but no one's in the back to protect PandaCat. He falls to CycloneSpin. Khaos next on the list, gets into the Separate form, but is just buying himself some time. Cyclone squishes him down. Benji's gonna get cleaned up, as will PBM. It's gonna be a deicide here for Allegiance, and Weekend spamming the taunts in return for Verizil's earlier on, only losing NeiruMah in the process, and now Allegiance, they're gonna be the ones to get this Fire Giant.
The downside of taunting just a little bit too soon. I mean, it might have been a slight confidence boost for him, but if anything, it just, I think, fueled Allegiance even more because these fights have just been so clutch.
Beautiful. Metyankey played that fight really, really well, stunning Verizil into the Fire Giant pool. A little bit of luck, also probably a little bit of skill involved, and it ends up getting him very, very low, allows CycloneSpin to clean it up. Benji did his best, but that's so tough whenever you're trying to clean up a low member, and it turns out to be the support. Then you've got Metyankey and Oceans who can just basically handle your damage at that point without your ultimate.
Yeah, that was just so unfortunate for Benji, but man, I mean, the lockdown for NeiruMah is almost non-existent, and every time they try to commit to him, it seems as though they're always finding themselves in an unfavorable situation because PolarBearMike, I feel like he can provide an excellent peel, but only against one member. And when you have a Susano and a Vamana constantly running down your soul, there's really nothing he can do to try and prevent them from just holding W.
Good luck peeling both those characters off. CycloneSpin, he's 7-0-5 in this one. Top of the player damage charts as well. Really showing up in game number 2. Had a very good game number 1 as well. Nothing to take away from that. But this time around on the Vamana, just really making everyone from eUnited run away from him. Weekend has to run away from PandaCat. Uses purification beads there in response to PandaCat's ultimate. So could try and abuse that jungler once more as Benji gets abused by the long-range Spirit Ball on Metyankey. Ocean's the one who's going to get the credit for the kill. Tier 2 tower starting to fall. Virizial eats a big chunk of damage from that circle of protection. Scarab's Blessing's on top of him, but it's not going to save Khaos. He's going to fall to weaken. Virizial gets revived, but immediately in trouble from CycloneSpin trying to chase him down. PandaCat controlled and knocked down as well. Virizial going to die underneath the middle Phoenix, and Allegiance in 26 minutes finds the second game 2-0 over eUnited.
This has just been, it was really just like one fight in both games that really just determined the outcome. And as soon as ALG had that slight capitalization onto the team members of eUnited, they just completely swarmed through them.
I mean, I think it's time to say that Allegiance is no longer playing well in the summer split. It's time to say that Allegiance is a top team in North America during the summer split. This one solidified it for me. They found the split against Luminosity earlier on, and now you look at the rest of their schedule, and I really don't envision a way that Allegiance don't find their way to Valencia.
I think that Allegiance has certainly solidified themselves as a top 3 team, because I know a lot of people were looking at eUnited as being probably one of the best teams in North America right now as well. And for Allegiance to handle them so easily, really, it just didn't seem like there was any sort of presence in that jungle. I think that Weekend has 100% found his rhythm with this team.
Absolutely. Everyone seems to be finding their rhythm for Team Allegiance. We're going to throw it to the desk right now to recap sets 1 and 2, as well as preview what we got going on the rest of today.
Thank you, Aggro and Taco. What an amazing performance from Allegiance, getting this 2-0 clean victory over eUnited, separating themselves for that 4 points.
Yeah, really making an impact here. Absolutely has to really go someplace different than they have been in the past. Ouch. And so this certainly was a good day.
I think that they did a great job in terms of picks and bans. They took away the soul coming out of their opposition, taking it away from Khaos, putting it for Metyankey. Not something that we've normally seen him play, normally playing the Isis, which we saw in game number 2, or the Noxes, but it's definitely worked out for them. Also, banning away a lot of selections against Virizial, forcing him into that Arachne in game number 1.
I mean, we say force into the Arachne, but Arachne's a god that Virizial has gone to and enjoyed in the past. He likes the character, and I saw a lot of people commenting on the build as well. Virizial knows his character better than most players, so seeing him do something a little bit odd with the build, oh well. It was the play for me that was an issue. He just wasn't able to really make it work totally. So the ban phase, sure, nice job, but Virizial doesn't mind playing Arachne. It just fell flat.
I feel like he just got punished so heavily against NeiruMah on the Terra, just able to control him every single time between the roots, the stunts, forcing this Arachne on Virizial to constantly go up into the sky for those defensive ultimates. Couldn't really get the initiations off that he wanted to. And as a result, taking a spill very early on.
Yeah, I mean, last week, or on Thursday rather, Virizial ran the game. He played his store and he ran the game for eUnited. And coming into this matchup, I had said eUnited what was going to be the team to take it. And a lot of that rested on Virizial. But you know what? I spoke a lot about the support player on the side of eUnited. I didn't actually speak about the new support player for Allegiance, NeiruMah, who we saw he was the player on Oxygen Supremacy. Fantastic stuff out of him, finally getting a shot in the big leagues and making it count.
Speaking of the support player coming out of Allegiance, we actually have him on the line. NeiruMah, how are you?
Good, how are you guys doing?
Pretty good, can't complain. How are you feeling after this 2-0 sweep? You're like getting into that position to qualify to Valencia.
Yeah, we're feeling pretty confident. Me personally, obviously, my first time in the SPL, so you can't really ask for much more after never being in the league before, is starting off like this.
Tell me about your picks and bans phase, because it seems to me that Soul in the mid lane was more of you guys targeting out your opposition against Khaos rather than for Metyankey. Am I wrong there?
You're asking some interesting questions. I don't know how much I can reveal here, Tolly. Are you working for other teams, or what's going on here?
I mean, I could be a double agent.
ADC,
you never know.
So. Yeah, Met used to be an ADC. Like, Met can play anything. We don't worry too much about the opposition. We know what we like, and we know that our team has a deep god pool, and we just like to draft whatever Met wants.
It seemed to me that you guys were doing a great job in terms of also focusing the jungler there. We were talking about it on the desk, how you guys almost forced Virizial into this Arachne pick, and then just punishing him every single time with your Terra play.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about the Arachne pick. It looked like they had practiced it before the way they started, but I mean, Arachne's a really hard god to play to begin with, not very mobile. If you want to get away, you have to use your ult, which we made him do, so I think it was a little bit of uncomfortability. We put him in some awkward situations where he wasn't really able to do much.
I'm going to ask you a less technical question, less strategy. You've been playing Smite for a number of years, NeiruMah. You've been floating around with the Challenger Cup, and we've seen you come up and down, but this is your first shot at the SPL, and I say, finally. What's it like? I mean, I don't want to ask you just how's it feel, but what's it like, and what's the biggest difference coming into the SPL versus some of the other leagues you've played in?
The biggest thing, obviously, is the competition. I personally don't feel a ton of pressure when I play in any big game, honestly, so coming in the SPL, it's not too much different in that regard from going from the Challenger circuit, but the quality of team, like, you can't take any team for granted. It doesn't matter if you're 1st seed or 8th seed, all the teams can show up and can win, so the difference really is the competition and a lot of the competitiveness in the SPL, yeah.
Speaking of competition, there's not too many weeks remaining here for SPL, only 5 weeks total. You're up against Noble and Eager in the next week. Are you, like, too worried about Noble or Eager at all?
Yes and no. I mean, they've had a few roster changes just like us. Like, Noble looks like they're just finding their stride, and Eager, you know, Zapman stepping down, that's a huge thing, which is too bad. You like to see Zap in the scene, but with both of them changing up, it's a little bit more beneficial for us, obviously, because teams are going to be a little bit disjointed, but at the same time, I mean, we would hate to drop games right now when we're put ourselves in such a good position to qualify for LAN.
Is there any other shoutouts that you want to give before we let you go?
Yeah, for sure. Shoutouts to Team Allegiance for picking me up after I didn't make it through relegations and giving me a shot. Our sponsors as well, Fused Focus. Matt's a big advocate of that. He's taken that before games. It's helping him out. And also, if you want to see me stream later this week, follow me at twitch.tv/NeiruMah. And same with my Twitter as well, yeah.
Thank you so much, NeiruMah, the support player from Team Allegiance here. And looking at the standings here, after these last 2 sets here, Allegiance now get these 3 additional points, separate themselves a little further away from eUnited. It's actually going to be updated as Team Allegiance should be sitting at 7 now, tied with Monkey Madness and Eager. They get those 3 points as well, putting them at 4 points.
Yeah, and that's going to be a really, really big jump because we're finally seeing North America really separate themselves and some of the other teams. You're getting a real structured standings. Over in Europe, you can say, all right, some teams are top, some teams are middle, some teams are bottom. Here in North America, it's kind of just an amalgamation of a bunch of teams, except for Monkey Madness and LG. Well, now we're seeing Team Allegiance really pick up steam, and I think we're going to see the same out of eUnited in the future. Mark my words, today's performance was the exception, not the rule, to how EU is going to be.
A great performance out of Allegiance and Eager with the first 2 sets, but